Let's say welcome world to the Middleton Methods podcast, where married, soon to be married, and want to be married couples come to be a fly on our wall and get practical tips, gain insights, and have some fun with us, and basically laugh at our expense.
That was good.
Thanks.
We are practicing intros right now, and I think we're just going to go right into the podcast, but I would like you guys to hear mine, and then maybe our listeners can weigh in on which one they like better, but I think you may have this one because yours is good, but mine's funny too. So let's see. Okay, ready?
That was only the first part of mine.
Oh, it is? There's more?
Listen, marriage isn't easy, and we're not perfect, but we're putting in the work to make it work. So take what you want, and what you don't want, don't take.
Oh,
so
that's
cute.
Right, hey, that would be really good for the end of it, though. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. Your feedback, guys. Give us your feedback. Okay, here's mine. Hello. We obviously like things in threes. Welcome to the Middleton Methods podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're opening the kimono to our life tips, business ventures, and funny stories to help you on your journey through life. So welcome. Today, we have some fun topics to cover, including how to plan your next vacation, our question of the day from Stephen in Wesley Chapel, Florida. But let's first start with our Middleton madness of the day.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, so we all know the holidays are here. It is that special time of the year with tons of social gatherings, end of the year trips, and last minute Christmas shopping. That's right, I said it. Last minute Christmas shopping.
And last minute as in we started last minute, not like we're just wrapping up the last.
We started Christmas shopping yesterday. Let's just be really honest here. Yeah. And Christmas is 5 days from now, so it is very last minute. So that's the theme in our house this year. It's just been crazy, and I just wanted to talk about the madness going on for just a second to let you know you are not the only one.
No, by no means.
And if you are the only one, please share your tips with us.
Oh, yeah.
Because
tips to just interview them.
Oh, gosh. Can we talk about like when we first started dating? We were a single couple. We first started dating. We were really young. So at first, we did not have a lot of experience with it's Christmas time and you're supposed to buy people cards and presents and all that stuff. So eventually, you know, through a few years of us being together, I kind of caught on like, oh, send Christmas cards to people and just let them know you're thinking of you. So I started doing that. But I would do that like I would buy presents. I'd have all my Christmas shopping done in October, pre-babies. Mm-hmm. Like it would just be done.
Yep.
Now it's like, Brandon, I know we have some work to get done, and I know we're traveling 4 times this month before the holidays, and there's 5 or 6 people coming into town throughout the next month, sporadically, in between our business trips. But hey, it's the week of Christmas now, and we need to go get our shopping done. Mm-hmm. Like, our kids are not going to be okay if there's no presents under the tree, so let's go. We got to get out there.
Yeah.
It's just been crazy. Mm-hmm. So what is a good question for this? Like, how do we handle it? How do we get...
Well, just what have we been doing? So what does this week look like? So,
you know,
it's really mostly about the kids.
Yes. And so this week more than ever, I just got back from a trip and I went all by myself and Brandon stayed home with the kids.
I survived.
Bless his heart. He made it through a very long weekend. I was gone for 5 days.
It was good. It was good to have a lone daddy time.
I know. That's good, right? I enjoy that piece of it when you're gone too, that I just get the babies all to myself, and those little times when Max is so attached to you. Mm-hmm. So he'll be like, daddy, but after a couple of days he'll be like, mommy, and he gets so excited to see me, and I love those moments. So now I'm home, and all I want to do is snuggle on my babies and keep them out of preschool all week leading up to Christmas, but I can't. Why? Because nothing is done around here. Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be out of school for what? It's almost 2 weeks?
No, they're only out of school for a long weekend and then another long weekend. Oh. We can bring them to school next week. Thank goodness. We can catch up on work and stuff if we even fall behind. We're pretty on top of work this year. So now this is the week of okay, we got to slow down a little. We're cutting off business. We are not completely, obviously, but we've definitely slowed things down because it's
Pump the brakes.
Yeah, it's that time of the year where, Mama Bear puts her foot down and says, this is time for family. And
it's been good.
Yeah, it's been really wonderful. So the last couple of days since I've been home have been great. We have brought the kids to preschool because we, have no gifts, like I said a minute ago. So we've had to go get our Christmas shopping done, and Brandon and I are spending more time together, just the two of us, which is really nice since we didn't have that while I was away for the weekend. And we have the holiday spirit is in the air. We're just enjoying it. Now we have a ton of presents to wrap and the rest of the presents to buy and presents for the teachers to drop off today, and families coming into town. So we have food to buy, and we want to go see some Christmas lights and we have some laundry to do. And even though the house was impeccably clean when I showed up, thank you again for taking care of cleaning the house while I was gone.
No problem.
That was another point for Brandon. We do have family coming into town this week, and the house is not as clean as it was 2 days ago when I got home. So
how does that happen so fast?
Oh, I don't know, but my suitcase exploded all over the house, and I haven't cleaned it up yet. Is probably the main cause. Oh, and all the Christmas paper is coming out, and it's a whole new thing now this week, right? So that's the madness of the week.
So I'd like to hear from other people with their kid. Like, is it different for families who have older kids? I'm assuming it must be totally different. We know what it was like before kids, but
like
if you have any
older
tips,
in our 20s and stuff.
No, I'm asking if they have. So our listeners that have kids, if it's not as mad for them right now, how did they get their planning, all their Christmas stuff done? Are they sending Christmas presents to everybody? They start their shopping way earlier. Any tips you have for us? With a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. We would definitely appreciate that. So go ahead and email those in or comment them in the reviews or whatever.
And just a little disclaimer, in case any of our friends and clients are listening, your cards and your presents are either going to be right on time or late. And I'm really sorry because it's just the way it's going down this year. Yeah. And I've brushed it off and I'm not stressing about it because I just want to enjoy the rest of the week. Just know it's on its way. And thank you for being in our lives. Okay, with that, it's also kind of the time of the year where people start to take more vacations, right? Like the kids
travel.
Right. So Brandon was thinking that our kids were off school for 2 weeks, but because of their age, their preschool is really more like a very organized daycare, where they have different things that they learn throughout the day, like a school, but it's not school. So the kids down in Florida are off for 2 whole weeks. It's not as long up north. I think it's like a week and a half up in Connecticut where we used to live, but they get 2 whole weeks off down here. So it's a great time and of the year for people to travel and take vacations. And how do you plan? How do you budget? Why do you even take a vacation right now? And so that is our big topic of the day that we just want to brush over and cover with you guys for a little bit.
So it's like traveling with family and vacation travel.
Yeah. So
into one.
We are big fans of the Staycation, and that's really what we want to...
Did you invent that term, or is that somebody...
I don't think
the first time I heard it, as you said.
Really?
Yeah.
And I don't think I invented it. I don't think I invented it. That's not... We'll have to Google it. I did not invent it. I'm pretty sure I heard it somewhere, but it is like us saying sanitizer, which Peyton invented, and some other weird things we say. Why do we choose to staycation? And what is a staycation? Well, a staycation is when you plan your trip that's within, relatively close to home. Driving distance, yeah. I would, within a half a day of travel, because we could really get up pretty far close to Connecticut, and I would not do I wouldn't say a staycation for us is Virginia, right? No. That's pretty far away. So, within the same state or
5 hours.
Yeah.
Driving.
Yeah. I think that's a very good definition of a staycation. Okay. And, for us, we choose to go to sunny Florida, not too far from home, and we just go about an hour and a half away over to Orlando and Kissimmee and Lake Buena Vista, the whole Disney area.
Go see the mouse.
That's right, and all his friends, and the kids love it. So we're definitely a staycation family. We have only done one big trip with the kids since they've been born. and that was out to Vegas, and we planned it around a business trip.
Gosh.
And then the only other time, which wasn't really like a vacation at all, we went and stayed for 3 months out in California, and that was also planned around business, and it was only when Peyton was a little itty bitty baby.
Well,
so she was
South Florida too. To see family for a few days.
It's another staycation, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
It's only a few hours driving distance. So we're totally a staycation family. We love staycations. We even did a little staycation down in Miami. We like to coast and travel all over Florida, but our main place is Orlando.
Especially with a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. Because
yes.
Now they both have to have plane tickets, or no? You have to buy a plane ticket for them?
Max will need a plane ticket in just a few short weeks when he turns 2. So yeah, 2, they consider them not a lap child. But if you think about it, it makes sense. Like Max doesn't like to sit on either one of our laps for too long now. Even just to get him to sit down, period, for too long will be amazing if we're able to do that on a plane. So
but just thinking in terms of budget, I mean, there goes like $1,000 just like
keep going.
Yeah,
Every time I priced out tickets for us to take like a different type of vacation, I'll look up for like, oh, let's go to California and see, our family up there. 2 more plane
tickets is basically like the whole hotel fee of a staycation. Right?
Yeah, so. Our tickets have doubled. So it's crazy. So why do we choose the staycation? One, Brandon just said the tickets are a lot cheaper because you don't need them. You just need some gas money. It's also less time to travel. Generally, when you're just driving a few hours away, and you can bring some more comforts of home with you.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because you just pack what you can in the car.
When you don't have to rent a car and you don't have to buy plane tickets, let's just say you have a vacation budget for the year. Some people burn that whole budget in one annual trip, maybe 2. But if you choose to staycation more, you may take a little less extravagant yearly vacation, right? That could be like the big vacation of the year, but you can wind up taking more vacations more often. And, our lifestyle is that we don't follow the traditional, like, only relax on the weekends and only vacation once or twice a year. We like to, let's be honest, we need it, especially more with the kids now. We need a change of pace, pretty much, once every month to 6 weeks, right? But certainly once a quarter.
We plan one once a quarter. Right. So once a quarter, we will go to Orlando, and there have been a couple of times this year that we went down and saw Brandon's family for a week down on Fort Myers Beach, which is a beautiful place to go if you've never been, and also over to Miami, South Beach once, which was like a little bit of like business, personal, planned around, but it made sense to take the whole family go. We brought a babysitter with us so we could go out. We did some things as a family. It was a really good time. So we really love the whole concept of the staycation, how it's easier with the kids. It's generally less expensive, and we're still close to home. So if we need to come back, it's not a plane ride away. We can just hop in the car and get back home. So that's the main reasons. Oh, and it's really easy to just stay an extra. It's just everything is so much easier, right? You have you have more flexibility. So if you're like, hey, let's leave a day early, we have nothing going on, or let's stay an extra day, we're having a really great time, we're not really feeling well, let's go home early. You just have those options and that flexibility. And as entrepreneurs with 2 toddlers, those things are important to us. So those are some things to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. When you are planning your staycation, you have to really kind of set a budget on what you're going to spend. So how do you do that? In our house,
I'm going to just stay out of this conversation. That's all your part here.
Well, first you got to pick a planner, which is me. In our house, it's me. I do go around. I don't do it with the kids as much because they're so little. But as they get older, I intend on doing the same thing I do with Brandon, which is kind of get a feel for, hey, is there anything special you want to do when we're away?
And I say, nope.
No, whatever you plan is good. Yep, exactly.
It usually works out.
It does work out. Usually, I think every time it works out just the way it's supposed to. So I am the planner. I am in charge of setting the budgets and making the arrangements and where we're going to go and what we're going to do. And again, I like to keep it easy. I just keep going back to Orlando. We have year passes. So if you can find a city near you that has maybe an annual pass for a museum or an amusement park or a zoo. Those are really great options with kids where when you repeatedly go back to that city, the kids look forward to doing that thing. They like the repetition. And obviously with Orlando, there's more than just the Disney parks, but it works for us because of the kids' ages. They love everything Disney. I love that they love it. I love to see their faces. And so I never get sick of going and seeing them get excited to see the parades, or they have so many different parades anyway. You can kind of like go different times of the day. You can get different fast passes and go on different rides.
But the majority of America that's not in California or Florida
we'll have a park or a zoo or there's like other activities that you guys can find in those areas. An aquarium, that's another good one where the kids can go back over and over and get really they enjoy looking forward to those things. So when we set a budget, we don't really set a budget in our house anymore. But we used to. And so this is the way I used to do it. And even now I do this still on areas that maybe we want to go to. And then we change our mind on the trip because I realize how much it would cost. And we just think it's kind of frivolous and we don't want to spend that amount of money. And we end up going back to Orlando. But for instance, when I'm setting a budget, I want to do a little research. So if you have never traveled to that destination before, how do you really choose a budget? You can't really say, let's go spend $2,000 on this family vacation or $5,000 on this family vacation, because you need to get an idea of where you want to go, what you want to do, how much lodging is going to be, and all that kind of information. You have to gather that information to make the correct decision and the correct budget on how much you want to spend.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So I just Googled it. American Express says that average American spends $1,145 per person. So the average family spends about $4,500 on a typical vacation.
A family of four, $4,500 on a typical vacation.
So what would you say would be for, like, how, just so someone has a point of reference, what is, like, if that was our big vacation, we spent $5,000 basically.
Okay.
A staycation, you try to stay within what would be an example of that?
A staycation generally costs us, because we already have our year passes and everything like that. So we probably spend between $2,000 and $3,000.
Right.
But when I go to plan out,
but that's us, right? We're in a different bracket than most Americans. So I would say.
But that's about what you're going to spend for a family of four. I mean, we do it so cheaply. We already have annual passes. We bring food with us. I get a room that's maybe a little bit more, so we have some more room. So you could save money on the room, but not much.
Or people that travel to family, right? People, like, we don't have a lot of family all over the place.
If you could stay with family, right? That's great. But that's not really a vacation at that point. If you're with family, in my opinion.
Stay at family's house, right? But go do their vacation. Anyway. All right, so half to a third to half of whatever they're probably spending on a typical vacation is probably a good staycation.
I can do a comparison. When I plan our staycations, we probably spend $2,000 to $3,000 and not have to watch what we're spending too much, and we can go have a good time and do what we want to do. We eat out a little bit, but not every time, and everybody's happy when we leave. When I look into doing a bigger trip, like travel on a plane, for instance, we had a potential trip out to Denver, Colorado this year, and we really wanted to go. And every time I priced it out, I tried to shave the cost down as much as I could, and I just couldn't make it happen. Between the airfare, and I didn't even look into renting a car. I mean, we were looking at probably closer to $8,000 to $10,000 to make the trip happen. And it's just kind of crazy for me with the kids being so young to spend that kind of money on a trip that they're probably not going to remember. And that trip was mostly going to be for myself and Brandon. It wasn't geared towards the kids more, and I just couldn't justify it. So we ended up not going. But that's what a budget would look like on the higher end for a family of four, I believe. And granted, most people do like to take their kids at some point in their lives down to Disney. Mm-hmm. And when you can't bring food with you, and if you're staying in a Disney hotel, the cheapest Disney hotels are $150, but they're like bare bones hotels, and that's the cheapest you're gonna find. And then they go all the way up to, some of these rooms are crazy. Like, it is so, I can't even imagine. People spend, $1,000 and $2,000 a night to see the fireworks from the Disney rooms. And they just have 2 little beds in the room, and that's it. And they'll spend $1,100 a night, just so you can kind of gauge what it's like to go to Orlando and stay in a hotel here, a Disney resort hotel. So those prices can be like all over the board, and you got to figure out what's right for you and your family and what's responsible to spend, but also do the research to back it up. Don't just say like, oh, we have $4,000, let's go spend it, because you may not really have the best trip you want to spend with that budget. Or, hey, we only have $1,000. You kind of have your work cut out for you. Maybe you can't go for a week. Maybe in order to get the activities done that you want to get done with your kids, you can only go for a few days, a long weekend or something, and you have to plan accordingly. So you got to do a little bit of research to figure those things out.
And if you're not going to a park and have to stay in a hotel, you also, like when we went down to South Florida, you used Airbnb or VRBO to rent a house, because we did more of the beach thing, right? There wasn't really an amusement park or anything like that.
Yeah, so let's hit on Airbnb for a minute, because I love Airbnb. And you can always, it's harder with little kids because we need car seats, but there are other services like Uber and Lyft. They're cheaper than taking taxi cabs. And I do notice most of the time Lyft is cheaper than Uber most of the time. And also Airbnb is a great resource because it's like renting somebody's house. You get more room for less money. And there's quite a bit of competition on there, and people don't like to see their homes vacant. They're using that opportunity to have either their primary or a secondary income in their house by renting out a rental property that they bought or something like that.
So they rent out their vacation home. Yeah,
or they rent out their personal home. I mean, Brandon just went up to New York for a business trip, and while he was in the city, the event was right in Times Square, and that is pricey to stay down there. I mean, the hotels were just crazy.
It's like $500 a night.
Yeah, and I knew you would barely be there. So I just researched Airbnb in the area for him, which I also did for our staycation down in Fort Myers, and I found a great deal in somebody's home. The one in Fort Myers that we used with the kids had three. Did we have 3 bedrooms or 2 bed? We had 3 bedrooms. So
they also already had a high chair. They already had the pack and play there.
Yes, they did. They had a pack and play, a high chair. They had all the pool toys and beach stuff. Yeah, I mean, it was great. They had bikes we could use if we wanted to go for a bike ride. They had wagons we could put the kids in and wheel them over to the beach.
Airbnb should pay us.
Yeah, I know.
This segment brought to you by Airbnb.
We'll send you the address where you can send the check. And then it's just kind of nice to have the comforts of home. You get there on an Airbnb, and there's a kitchen, so you can go to the grocery store locally, and you can go shopping. Yeah, and we do this every time we get an Airbnb. And we'll go to the grocery store, we'll get some groceries, and there's even some, there's services like Shipt and Instacart that will deliver your groceries, and they're pretty widespread in a lot of cities. So even if there's not, but what's the worst case? You have to run to the store for a couple times that week and get some groceries. It's not a big deal. But you can stock your house up and stock your fridge up and pack sandwiches to go before you go, and that even makes things more affordable.
Way more. You figure if go
and
4 of us
go. Can we just hit on that for a minute? Like, we'll eat a little bit more junk food and stuff when we're away, but eating in Disney is like it is painful.
Would you like fried or fried?
I know, it's painful. Do you want fried breading for your kids, or do you want the most nastiest manufactured hamburgers and hot dogs you could possibly put into your kids' bodies? And oh my gosh, it's really it's a little stressful. That's the most stressful part of going to Disney for me, is the food we put in our kids' bodies sometimes when we don't go as prepared as we should be. But anyway, back to the Airbnb. So you could buy your groceries, you could keep things healthy, you can still go out to eat, but you just have that option to throw food in the fridge and have breakfast when you wake up, and you don't have to worry about running down to a hotel restaurant or where you're going to go eat, because you can just throw some cereal on the table or cook up some eggs for breakfast. And really, the kids enjoy that, I think, more anyway. And they can run around and play with their toys, so there's less stress from that.
We stayed at that Disney. I know I'm flip flopping here, but back to on the whole food thing reminded me that some of the hotels that we stayed at, like that one at Disney, had like the cocktail / hors d'oeuvre hour that was free. They also had the breakfast in the morning that was free. So, I mean, it's included in the room fee, right? So, do you look for those things, or I guess
I do when I'm booking us a hotel.
Okay.
Because I like to just know that here's my fee and everything's taken care of, and then I don't have to think anymore past that point. And when we're at our hotel, it's like, okay, we're going to go to breakfast at the same place every day. And, you know, the kids like the repetition anyway. At their age, they like repetition. So this time around, when we just went on a staycation a couple of weeks ago with the kids. We did Orlando. We did a couple of extra days than we normally do. Like we just went a little bit more all out. I booked it very last minute. So there was not one room at any Disney resort like available anywhere. So we did stay in a hotel by Disney Springs, but we weren't actually in Disney. It worked out perfectly because I got a little bit bigger of a room for less money than I would have spent on a Disney room anyway. We had breakfast included every day. And the kids just got used to that repetition. You know, we woke up and they were like, let's go get breakfast. And they knew they were going to get a Mickey waffle. They knew that they were going to have fruit on the buffet. And, you know, they got used to that. And it made it very, very easy to just wake up and roll out of bed and take the kids down and get something to eat. Yeah. So there's advantages to doing it in a hotel too. I prefer Airbnb most of the time because I like the amount of space we get and how everybody, you know, the kids have their own rooms. Yeah. And so on and so forth. However, every once in a while, I do like to throw in the action, make it feel like a real vacation and get a hotel and kind of do the hotel thing. What was really convenient at this specific staycation when we went to Orlando this time is because we were going for so many days, I didn't want us to get bored, and I didn't want to feel like we had to go to a park all day with the kids to keep them entertained. So I was originally looking for a Disney resort because they have so much to do on property. So I thought, okay, we'll spend a little extra money on the hotel this time instead of an Airbnb because we're going to be there for 5 days. I think we ended up going. And I want to be able to go, you know, do the rowboats or go stand on the property and watch the fireworks, or maybe we want a monorail to be able to go over to the park whenever we feel like it, and we can leave when we feel like it, and just kind of have that flexibility. But because they didn't have any rooms available, I was like, you know, the second best thing is to just stay. We ended up staying in a Hilton down by Disney Springs. It was a horrible staffing experience. They were terrible there. But the hotel was very, very close to Disney Springs. So if we got a little stir crazy in the room, we threw the kids in the stroller and we walked down to Disney Springs, and there's so much to do there now. It's used to be downtown Disney, but there's so many different activities to do. We went down there a few times, and it was like a new experience for the kids every time.
Mm-hmm. Kids just like to get out and walk sometimes. Like as long as there's stuff to distract them that they're looking at, just getting out and walking is a activity in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was it. We tried to really pick places that the kids are going to enjoy going to at their ages of being 2 and 3. If we take them to like, you know, a fancy restaurant or, you know, somewhere a little bit more geared towards adults, Max just doesn't handle that very well because he's only 2 and he gets bored and then he kind of gets bad. So we're better off thinking about places. For instance, at downtown Disney Springs, there's this restaurant called Rex. It's so cool on the inside. There's dinosaurs that move and rooms change colors, and the only downside of that restaurant is every hour the dinosaurs, it's like what's that other Rainforest Cafe where every hour or whatever the animals kind of like go crazy, and the monkeys and everything and the elephants are all making noise. Well, they do that in Rex too. It's a little scary for little kids to see these big dinosaurs.
Gosh, Max had me dying laughing. He was yelling at the dinosaur and crying when I brought him up to it to show him. I thought he was gonna be so excited, and he was like,
remember that thing? Gosh. Peyton pointed at this thing and she's like, look, Mommy, it's so pretty. And she went to touch it and I was like, that's a bug. And she freaked out. It was so funny.
It's a bug like the size of
it was huge.
Her.
Yeah, it was big. But it didn't look like a bug at first to her. And when I said, that's a bug, she freaked out. She wouldn't even touch it or go near it. It was pretty funny. Poor thing. guess I have my bad mom moments where I'm like, oh, it's a bug, Peyton, just to freak her out for a second. I knew she'd be freaked out. It was not very nice of me to do, but I got a little enjoyment out of it. We're not being very good at that lunch, so it was kind of my payback, I guess. Anyway, so we look for restaurants where the kids can be loud. There were tons of kids screaming in that place. Max was not behaving as well that day, and I just looked at Brandon and I like shrugged and was like, who cares? So, there's so many kids like crying and screaming in here. Just let him stand on the booth if he wants.
Disney's great about that.
Yeah.
But if you're not in an area like that, right? What a Cheesecake Factory is a big, noisy one.
So all the loud.
Time.
Even places like Ruby Tuesdays and Chili's and restaurants,
a lot of the big chains.
Try to seek out places where other families and parents are going to take their kids that probably are worse behaved than yours. And so even though if your kids get a little outlandish, they're probably acting better than some other kids in the restaurant. Yeah. And that is my tip of the day. That's the tip of the day. Go somewhere where the kids there are going to be worse than yours. So your kids look like angels. And then...
yeah, because let's be real. It can be kind of... that could mess up the whole afternoon or the whole evening by going out to a meal and having the stress of the kids being, because you're at 2 and 3, you don't kind of know how they're gonna act when you bring them out in public and make them sit down for an hour or so, right? So,
I know. I seriously pray every time we go into a restaurant. Please get us through this meal. Let the kids be good. Let Brandon not get too frustrated at them. But
if you're in a the dinner may not be the best tasting dinner, right? It may not. You're on vacation. You got a little extra money to spend. You may want to go to the steak restaurant or go, to that nice meal. But just like Sam said, a little tip: go to those more noisy ones. That way, you'll have a good experience with the family. It won't affect the rest of the day in case the kids are out of control, right?
Yeah. I think
if you're anything like me, I get frustrated.
Oh, Brandon does. Sure. And I'll tell you, you start to see his face get a little red and he thinks he's, smiling through it, but he's really not. And I want to be like, tell your face to smile. But anyway, you could just see kind of the frustration going over him. And I just look at him and I'm like, shh, it's fine. It's okay. It's fine. There's 1,000 screaming kids in here and you just got to shrug it off at some point. I just don't like to be that guy sometimes. I don't like to be that family. I know. But as a parent, restaurant with the only kids, they're angels so much of the time, and then it's going to be the one time we're out that they want to be crazy, but that's not the one time. They get crazy. Certain times of the day they just get crazy, and food time is one of them. What else do we do? Oh, to keep things really great and happy at the restaurant, we sit down and immediately order something to eat because our kids are very well entertained with food in front of their faces. And another really good thing to think about, because eating out at restaurants can get really expensive. Mm-hmm. They also do, if you can't bring food with you, or you run out of food, or you don't want to go out to eat all the times with the kids because it could be a little crazy or a little too expensive to eat out, they also have services like... I know most of you have probably heard of Uber where they drive you around. Well, now Uber has an app called Uber Eats. It attaches right to your Uber account, and you can it's one thing. It's taking the art of food delivery to a whole new level because you can usually only back in the day. In the dinosaur ages, Chinese. It's pizza or Chinese, and that's about it. But now on Uber Eats, you can, any local restaurant that puts their restaurant on Uber Eats, you can order from. So you can get Indian or
Thai food.
Thai food is usually what we go for because it's a little healthier. But you could still get pizza, but now you have a whole bunch of options for pizza. They'll have local restaurants or chain restaurants that'll throw their Chili's and stuff like that. Stuff will be on there. Little mom and pop places are the biggest ones I see on there. So if you wanted sandwiches or something, it's a great resource to use. And we'll throw our little codes in our podcast. Please, by all means, I love using Shipt and things like Uber and stuff like that, and we use them very often, and I'm a total advocate for them. But if you don't have them yet and you're thinking about doing so, please use my code. Help me out. I'll help you out. We each get like $10 off an Uber ride or $10 off Uber Eats, and it's a little discount, but you're, thanking me by throwing it back my way for next time I take a trip. So thank you in advance. Lastly, let's talk about how to prepare for your staycation. We've kind of covered
the planning,
where to go and how much to spend, what to do while you're there, and why you would want to take a staycation. But how do you prepare to leave? Because a staycation is like, you're going local, but there's still a lot to pull together. Everybody needs clothes, and you got to pack. And if you are bringing food with you, instead of waiting till you get here, you have to prepare that. So in our house, we like to do this when Max and Peyton are not awake because that can be a little crazy sometimes, unless they're helping. Like if I'll be like, let's go pick out your clothes, but I won't actually pack them while they're up. And sometimes that's just the way it goes down. Sometimes we just have to do what we need to do. But I generally like to do it while they're sleeping. If I can pull their clothes out while they're awake, and then I can get the rest done while they're asleep, napping, or at school. Those are my ideal times to get the packing done because I can just focus and make sure I don't forget anything. If you have not staycationed a lot, make yourself a list so that you don't forget anything, because nothing's worse than, forgetting your underwear, for instance, or forgetting the sunscreen, and then B, you have to take time out while you're there and go purchase it. It's generally
$45.
The price is inflated to crazy amounts because you're on vacation, and it's just very unnecessary. So you could save yourself that time and frustration by just making yourself a list. What else do we do around here? You
should make a list and put it on the show notes for the podcast.
Sure, I can make a general list of the things. I've done this so many times, I don't make a list anymore, but I will show you the types of things I pack when I go. I do like to bring a couple comforts from home for the kids. So, for instance, this time around, we didn't bring a pack and play. Max is almost 2. He used to use that as a crib when we would take our staycations, but I just really can't stand taking too many. You should have seen the back of our truck back in the day. It would be so filled with the Max jumpers and bouncers and cribs and crazy. So now,
look, you can't have the kid. You can't have a little baby crawling around on the hotel floor, especially if you're in like a budget hotel. I mean, maybe no. We've
picked the kids up and they've had like
black on the bottom of their feet
from all the dirt, and it really skeeves us out. So to think of like the babies rolling around on there, no thank you.
Yep.
So we did bring Peyton's bed bumpers with us so that they could sleep in the bed. They slept in the bed together.
We'll put that link in from Amazon. Those things are awesome.
Yeah, they are.
And they don't take up any space.
They take up no space. They totally break down, and you can fit them right in. We couldn't fit the actual bumper in a suitcase, but they just throw right in the back of the car.
If you
take it all apart.
Break it down one more step,
Well, we were too lazy.
No, we didn't need to.
Because we had the room. Yeah. But we did take off like the little arms and the legs and packed them away in the suitcase and just took it with us. And the kids loved it. They felt like they were having a little slumber party. And Max came home from the trip and he didn't even want to sleep by himself for a couple of days. He had such a good time with his sister. He'd be like, go sleep AT's bed. But now we've changed his bed to a big boy bed because of that. Anyway, that's another story for another time. We do also like to take a couple of their favorite stuffed animals with us. They, maybe your kid has a pacifier or a blanket or a stuffed animal they like to sleep with. Please don't forget it. It's like the most important thing that you need to pack, because it's been a lot easier for me, in my experience, to go put the kids down when they have that from home. Like Peyton has Frank, which is this little bear that her grandfather gave her. And Max has Roger, which is the equivalent to Frank, his Frank. And they take their little stuffed animals with them, and when it's bedtime, they know they know it's time for bed because they have Frank and Roger with them.
This time was cool too because we put them in. We were in a suite, so they slept. The beds were in a separate room. Right?
Yes.
So it's a separate room and no window. I mean, the windows are all blacked out. In a hotel, usually those curtains are so dark.
Yeah.
So we put them in a new room, in bed together, in the dark, close the door, and then we had the whole, couch and TV section where we could still have our
Our time.
Our time at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was really nice.
That was cool. They went down easy.
Super easy.
Yeah.
The first night was a little challenging for Max because this was like the first time we really did this to him. So he was freaking out a little bit. But he did really, really good overall. The other thing we really like to do is just make sure we clean up the house before we leave. There's all these things you got to remember to grab your clothes, and it can kind of get messy when you're running around. And
especially with you, not like take the hangers off the clothes, and then you just leave the hangers on the bed. You just put the hanger right back. You just took the clothes out, put the hanger right back.
Okay. However, I don't always do that. So before we leave the house, I do like to run around with Brandon and clean the place up. We make sure the dishes are done so that we don't get all those little like fruit flies or whatever that can like create a nest in your sink, or ants. Yeah, gross. You don't want spiders. And in Florida, there's roaches.
Heaven's sake,
so gross.
Take the garbage out.
Yes, take the garbage out. Otherwise, your house will smell like a dirty diaper. We empty out the diaper pails.
Mm-hmm. And we don't want that after 3-4 days.
We make the beds before we go. I clean down the counters before we go. I don't do like I don't go like mopping all over the house or anything, but we do like those simple things, like we'll clean up anything we took out that we didn't want to take with us. Mm-hmm. We put the hangers away after I leave them on the bed for a day. We make the beds before we go and take out the garbages and do all that stuff so that when we come home, the house just is like welcoming, and we're like so happy to be back when we walk in and don't have 1,000 things to do right when we walk in the door. Do you have any other thing? I mean, you do help me with that part.
I think we covered it all.
Oh, you know what? There's one more thing I thought of. If you are not like, you can have maybe one person is like the sole person that packs in your house, but Brandon and I are really good about just naturally dividing the responsibilities. I do like to do most of it, but that's me. I just like to know that I packed everything. I didn't forget anything.
So I play defense with the kids.
So he does, yeah.
I block and tackle. I make sure that they don't go in the bedroom while you're trying to pack, because Max
the kids are awake, yes.
Pull the clothes. You make this nice, beautiful packed pile of clothes, and then Max wants to be like, "Oh, what's this?" and throw it all around.
And Brandon's also in charge of like, he naturally goes, because he's technically, he's more driven towards the iPads and the computers, so he'll go pack up our computers to take with us so we can get a little work done while we're gone.
iPod for his music when he goes to sleep.
Yep, so he's comfortable when he goes to sleep because he's used to hearing his music every day. He'll also grab the stroller and throw it in the car and make sure the car's cleaned out and ready to go, and the car seats are in there and the kids have what they need in the car. He gets the leapfrogs and makes sure they're charged so the kids are entertained in the car if they start to get crazy. We use it only if they get crazy, but when they get crazy, we will give them the leapfrogs to play with. Mm-hmm. We just kind of have like divided responsibilities that after doing it a few times, it's like, I don't even ask Brandon, did you pack my phone charger? Because I know he's got it. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't ask like, did you grab my shorts? Because he knows I've got those. So it becomes easier and easier the more times we do it. Yeah. We started with lists years ago, and now we just kind of run around the house and get it all done and go, and it's really enjoyable. So that's our little segment on staycations today. If you're not planning a vacation soon, totally do it, because
it's important. It keeps the good family dynamic. It keeps the work will always be there when you get back. So just budget accordingly and get out there and enjoy your staycation. These are the memories that you'll have those pictures for. That's what life's all about, right? Creating as many of those memories as possible. So why do it once a year when you can do it 2, 3, 4, 5, however many times a year you can afford in your annual budget.
All right. So we're going to move on to our question of the day. This one is not as much of a high note, but it's got a good warm fuzzy feeling. I think going into the holidays, could be a heightened time for arguments and disagreements. Would you? Well,
yeah. You've got family coming together in one place, and sometimes, there's always that like cousin or uncle or brother or sister that or getting back together with the parents, you're not in control of who's going to be at the family function, right?
Yes, so, and even between couples, it's like, how much do you spend on Christmas presents and
all that extra pressure?
getting everything done and work, but there's just things that could come up between couples.
Let me make a quick note about this, the pressure, because it's actually related to the vacationing as well, right? When you put so much pressure around, or society, whatever you want to call it, put so much pressure around this once a year event, right? This once a year vacation, or you put all this pressure around these, this once a year holiday, Christmas. There's all this pressure for things to be like, it's the most wonderful time of the year, right? Everything needs to be like happy and everything's planned, right? You put all this, there's all this extra stress. So just as it relates to vacationing, there's another note. When you can vacation more often than not, you know what? If you planned on going on that, having that one ride or doing that one thing and you didn't get to it this time, it's no big deal. It's only a matter of, a few months and you're going to go do it again. But I think families tend to, have that once a year thing, and it puts that extra pressure for things to all go perfectly. And we got to get all this stuff done and we got to do all that, right? So just wanted to point that out, because if you can do it more often, right, you can have more quantity. It makes it easier for you to have that quality of time and stuff.
Even when we do this more often, like I used to schedule, everything's got to be scheduled, and we don't even do that anymore. Now it's like, you know what, I got some fast passes if we don't make it, whatever. And because we do it so often, it's like, if we don't make it to the Dumbo ride today, it's no big deal. Or I have some links of places that would be fun and new and fun to go do. But let's just get out there and see, how the kids are doing that day. And it's nice to have it be a little organic and not so structured, which is, structure is so huge on our day-to-day basis. It's nice to just go switch the things up. It's probably really healthy for the kids too.
For sure.
I'm going to have to Google that and see if there's any statistics on that. Just like changing their pace and not having everything like bedtime, mealtime, and just having that flexibility to be like, what do you feel like doing today? I mean, I grew up kind of like that. What do you feel like doing? Mm-hmm. We do that on the weekends too. We wake up and we're like, what do you feel like doing today? All right, so back to our question of the day that was brought to us by Stephen in Wesley Chapel, Florida. So thanks for sending this in. How do you deal with disagreements or arguments? Well, again, with the pressure of the holidays, this could be at an all-time high. So 'tis the season. And one of the big things is, for me,
Wait, who said we argue in the first place?
Well, yeah, we don't argue very often, actually. But when we do, it could be a doozy if we don't have
Well, we have certainly. I was just joking, right? 15 years, you think we don't argue? Of course we argue.
Well, 15 years, we argue a lot less. We argued
every
a
year
lot
it's been
more
less
at the beginning.
And less.
But yes, and around this time could be the time that we would possibly argue more. There is just more pressure at the end of the year to get stuff done.
More money being spent, right?
Yeah.
More travel, right? So now you're fitting more things and less, more things in less time, and just the stresses of travel and not being in your environment sometimes, and schedule. Yeah, it
could be.
It can be crazy.
It's a more height environment to not get along.
Yeah.
So one of the things, and even day to day, like this could come up 3 months after the holidays, and it's important to just kind of think about how to deal with that situation the most effectively, especially when it comes to, we could talk about, how to agree with disagreements and arguments with family. But for me, that's pretty simple. Just stay in your own lane and keep to your own business and mind your own business, and don't be opinionated and judgy about your family. And just know that, this is a time and a season of happiness and joy, and, focus on the good. Which are actually very simple things to take to the relationship. But I think it's more important for us to talk about like disagreements and arguments between couples or spouses.
Yeah. But one thing I want to, just on that note of whether it's family or other, distant cousins or someone's, whatever, other people outside of you and your spouse. I love the quote that says, drawing a blank here. Oh, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?
Oh,
and
we
when
tell
I first
people that
heard
all
that,
the time.
I was like, man, that is so simple. So with, me and some of my extended family, I do a lot of smiling and nodding. And when we're at family events, right? You know, they want to complain about something, or they want to tell me how to live my life, or they want to, you know, this was, back in the day.
They still do it.
They still do it to an extent. But they've caught on now that we don't engage in it. So you do a lot of smiling and nodding, and it's really just, you're there for dinner, you're there for, you know, the part of the day. It's not the time to try and argue a point of view or to judge someone, or just have a good experience, right? And you're not going to change anyone overnight necessarily. So just, again, would you rather think about that when you're hanging around someone who may be having an issue with you, or you have an issue with the way they're doing things? Just think, would you rather be happy in that moment, or would you rather be right? Because usually it's not.
My response is I'd rather be both.
Of course.
You know, I always joke with you and say I'd rather be right, and I'd rather be happy. However, at the end of the day, in our relationship too, like, that is so important. I forget that sometimes, like when we have a disagreement, sometimes I just need to get it out. You know, like if I'm coming to you and I have a challenge that sparks an argument, it's probably because I was seeking your help in that moment in time. And I didn't get the answer or resolution I was looking for. And so if we're bickering back and forth, it's because I feel like I still need you in that moment and you're not hearing me necessarily. I know that's with any time that I have to reflect back, I'm always like, okay, maybe that's why I got a little bit more frustrated in that situation. But I need to just get it out sometimes. I need to be mindful though at the end of the day that it's not about like hurting. Like I really don't like to say things that'll hurt your feelings. I try to stay factual and find a resolution and focus on having a good outcome of those situations and moving on. Like those are the biggest things that I try to do anytime we do have a disagreement. And it's not like it shouldn't be tit for tat, right? Like
no.
If sometimes things just slip, like or like you'll say things sometimes that you don't necessarily mean to say in a hurtful way, but man, the way I took it was hurtful.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay, babe. But I have to remember, like, okay, this isn't tit for tat. I just don't like throw something back at Brandon because he may not have even been intending to hurt my feelings. And in the moment, that can be very, very challenging to do. And it's just getting, like, that's why we don't argue as much anymore, probably, is because, like, we're just more mentally aware of those things about each other or understand each other more now, where we can just generally, you know, let things roll off our shoulders a little more. Or
well, look, especially those who are newly married or have only been married for a few years, it's pretty fresh on your mind, your vows, right?
Yeah.
You know, look up the definition of a vow. I mean, that is a pretty powerful promise. You said, I do, right? Richer for poor, sickness and in health, till death do us part. So basically, you're on the same team. Like, there's no getting out of it, right? That's what we believe anyway. There's no, so if you're on the same team, you wouldn't want to hurt your teammate. You wouldn't want to, hurt them so bad that they're out of the game, right? You wouldn't want to think, oh, I'm just going to go to another team. No, you're on the same team. You made this vow. You're, two become one. So your problem is my problem. We got to figure it out. And kind of knowing that that's, no matter how the argument may be going, eventually we have to come out of this in a positive way. So, like, life's going to go on. We're going to prevail. So that attitude, I think it can be, and certainly in the past before we were married, it was easier to kind of have those tit for tat, like I'm me and you're you and I'm right and you're wrong, or, and it was different.
Who's right?
You're always right.
Just kidding.
So just keep that in mind. Remind yourself of that, because that certainly has gotten lost in today's society.
Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work, and looking for a resolution is definitely the way to go. And at the end of the day, literally the end of the day, you just don't want to go to bed angry. I mean, know when to say you're sorry, know when to move on from it. And it's not always going to be cut and dry where there's some weird, unicorns and rainbows and happy ending. Like, sometimes you are just not going to agree with your spouse, but you just have to agree to disagree and find a common ground, because not every situation is going to have a clear-cut answer on how to move forward. But as long as you guys are have some kind of idea of what you're doing and you agree on some things and, you know, choose to let some other things go, then you guys can move forward happily and have one less, you know, fight in the books next time.
And one quick tip, obviously it goes without saying, like, don't be hurtful, don't be, you know, like, don't say things that you can't take back. But also a big do not go to your friends.
This is so good. I already know where you're going with this.
Don't put your business, don't go talking to your friends or calling mom and dad. Don't put your business out. You got a problem with your spouse, you deal with it with your spouse. If you have, you know, religious background, you know, I'm sure there's marriage counseling, or there are, you know, you talk to your pastor or whatever, but do not talk to friends and get everyone else's opinion and bring them into your stuff. You go to the source.
There's a difference between like talking to a couple of close friends about things, just maybe for like different insights or opinions, and maybe like after the fact, or if you're really struggling and you're both stuck and you want to bring in a third party to just kind of get other people's opinions on the situation so that you guys can move on together. But for me, there is nothing worse. And I think guys do this as well. You've shared with me, but women can be very chatty and kind of dramatic about it.
No.
And it's very hard, and has been hard for me for many years, to get together with like a group of girls. I've started doing it more because now that my sphere of influence has changed over the years, so I can get together for girls' night and have great conversations with my girls. But for a very long time, I could get together with the girls and it would be like them complaining about their man or saying everything that was going on, and they would tell me all their dirt about the fights and secrets going on in their house. And I mean, I would come home to Brandon and be like, I don't even think I can do this anymore, because not with him, obviously, but with like do the girls' nights, because it would be really challenging to listen to all that negativity. But more importantly, I would always just come home and be like, why don't they just go express their frustrations to their boyfriend or their husband? Why aren't they talking to them? Because really, nothing's going to change by talking to somebody else. The only way things are going to change when you're disagreeing with your spouse is to go to them. Go to the source.
Yep.
So that will wrap up our podcast for the week. We can't wait to see you guys next week. And we really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening, and love your questions coming in. So please keep them coming, and your feedback and your comments. Let us know who slam dunked our intros. If you guys liked them both, that's great. Maybe we'll just go back and forth. Or if you like pieces of one, pieces of the other, we can merge them together and find a happy marriage there. But clearly, I'm not going to be really offended or anything if you tell us it was Brandon's, even though it might have been mine. So
yeah, we want to hear from you, that we are doing this podcast for you. So please leave us a review. Help us by, at least if you don't know what to say. I don't like to leave a lot of reviews, but you can leave just a star rating. That will really help us out a lot.
5 stars would be amazing. Thanks.
Yep. But yeah, give us your comments and feedback, and let us know how we can help.
No matter what holidays you guys are celebrating right now, Christmas or the Hanukkah or any of them, we really, really, really hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Take some time to enjoy the people around you and celebrate and get together and have some downtime and plug with your family. Hug your kids a little tighter. Give your main squeeze extra squeezes. And again, thank you guys for being here, and have a wonderful, wonderful holiday.
Thanks, everybody.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Shine so bright, and I can make right now